Familiarity breeds contempt. When we're in a bad mood, our family sees us at our worst, and our biggest arguments tend to be with our family and those we live with each and every day. We can say some nasty things we often live to regret. With that, here is episode 5. Let's see how catty Bob and Dot can get.
Problem? Are you saying I have a problem?
Yeah, I guess I am. All those plans and schedules. They're not good for a little kid. What are you trying to do, huh? Turn poor Enzo into you? Totally pre-programmed?
Pre-programmed? Well, at least he won't be as inconsiderate and random as some people.
Random?
Guys, chill, will ya?
No, it's okay, Enzo. If your big sister feels she knows it all, far be it from me to get in her way.
Now you're talking.
Well, Dot, then why don't you put this on your schedule? I'll kiss a null before I step into this place again.
Fine by me.
The TIFF was written by Lane Richard, with story by Lane Richard. The main cast includes Michael Benier as Bob, Kathleen Barr as Dot, Jesse Moss as Enzo, and Michael Donovan as Fawn, Cecil, and Mike the TV. In a rarity for the series, there are no villains in this episode. The conflict solely revolves around Bob and Dot getting into a tizzy. And honestly, I keep ping-ponging on how I feel about this initial setup, but let's circle back to that at the end. Dot berates Bob for being a bad influence on Enzo, letting him run around without a schedule. Bob tells Dot she needs to relax and live life more on the edge. Enzo kind of takes Bob's side in this silly and mostly irrelevant argument, but that's mostly because Bob lets him skip classes and stuff. He's the cool adoptive father figure, right? Bob storms out, an unspecified amount of time passes, and we see that Bob has a very busy schedule. Not.
Lonely? Call me. On the mainframe party line. My name's Kay, and I'm waiting to hear from you. Now.
Mike?
Having trouble getting things done? Let's get organized! At least he didn't use the garbage disposal.
This is also the first appearance of everyone's favourite appliance, Mike the TV. He doesn't do too much here, but he'll become important later. In the next scene, we shift back to Dot's diner as Enzo is trying to convince Dot to call Bob, and Dot refuses. Suddenly a tear appears in the centre of the diner, and Enzo gets excited because he knows they'll need Bob to mend it. Sticking to the silly stubbornness that plague many adults, Dot decides she can handle this by herself. She picks up a stool, and no joke, hits the tear like a baseball. The thing explodes comically, taking up part of a wall and leaving the cartoony scorch marks on the faces of Dot, Enzo, and Cecil. Enzo is convinced that this stubbornness is going to end in tragedy, and he and a bunch of townsfolk head to Fawn to complain. Fawn spouts words from a fortune cookie.
Calmness, everyone. Now listen. It is said that broken friendship is best mended by tragedy or apology.
Wow, alphanumeric. Deep. What do you mean exactly, Fawn?
I have no idea, child, but you must ponder my words.
The funny thing is, I pretty much agree with Fawn's statement here. There are many a family member who are finally able to mend grudges at a funeral. Anyways, Enzo gets an idea which is, well, it borders the line between smart and absurd, I guess. He, again with the help of some binomes in town, pretends to get kidnapped by Megabyte. They even make a standee of him in the background, and sends videos to Bob and Dot separately, asking for them to save him. His idea, of course, is that the two of them will arrive and unite for a common cause, saving Enzo. Unfortunately, they appear and just decide to keep shouting at each other instead.
Help! Somebody help! Poor me!
you doing here?
Me? I'm here to rescue Enzo. What about you?
Enzo called me. Why don't you just zip along now? I've got things under control here.
Oh, really? I'm surprised you could find time in that busy schedule of yours to save your own brother.
Well, I'm surprised you were even available. I thought you'd be too busy, living on the edge and all.
Unfortunately, Enzo exposed himself to real danger on the conveyor belt he put himself on. Good thing Megabyte wasn't actually involved, or it would be curtains for him. Luckily, Frisket fetches him off the belt just before it can erase him. And as Dot and Bob continue to bicker with each other, Enzo decides to go for plan B. In the next scene, we see Bob receive a telegram.
It's so hard to say I'm sorry, and even harder to say I was wrong. It's times like these
that I realize what a special friend you are and how wrong I've been. You know there's nothing we can't do together. Won't you accept my apology? Won't you meet me halfway?
In case it flew over your head, Enzo doctored the telegrams to look like the two sprites, and then sent the message to them to get them back into a dialogue. As the scene fades to the two of them at the park, you can see that Enzo's fake message has lightened the mood somewhat between them. The sky darkens as a GameCube heads in, destined to drop right on top of them. But neither of them looks worried, or in any way upset, until Dot mentions Bob's card, which of course he never sent, since Enzo did it. Enzo, watching from a distance, is helpless as the cube lands, and the two still bickering sprites are caught in a game. They're so committed to the argument that they reboot in the midst of them yelling. But maybe the user's presence will snap them out of that.
Because you were acting like a dip switch. ReBoot.
You were the one who said you were sorry.
Me?
Beginning self-destruction sequence.
Maybe we should get ourselves out of the game first. Argue later.
Right. It's Starship Alcatraz. We need that access key.
Oh, terrific. He set the ship for self-destruct. This could be a little tough.
Nah, easy as pie squared. We can use these to capture the rascal. Come on, it'll be easy.
And hey, first user with a face. Cool. So the whole premise of this game, Starship Alcatraz, is that Bob and Dot are prison warrants on some sort of vessel, and all the prisoners, which include a lot of random rudimentary shapes, are running amok. Again, this episode has clearly followed the format set up in the first tale, with this being our third and final act. The two grab their special guns, which fire non-lethal capture bubbles, and essentially go commando, trying to take down the inmates without really coordinating with each other. Oh, and the user cut the main power. Oh, and the station's on a self-destruct sequence. No pressure, right? At one point, Bob gets knocked off a railing and starts to fall back to the ground. Though he is saved partially thanks to Dot and partially thanks to Glitch, they are now separated and running short on time.
Give me your location. I'll be right there.
No, the user's moving too fast. Get that main power back on. I need you to slow him down.
Main power? This thing's in turbo, Yada. Not exactly my first language.
I remember ancient languages. Who needs them?
Okay, so I'm a geek. Just tell me how to get this thing online.
So, in a cool turn of events, Dot is left in the action hero role, and Bob is the coordinator / man with the plan. That's actually a great, subtle way of getting across an important moral. The best way to appreciate another person is to put yourself in their shoes. Plus, it gives Dot a chance to dual-wield huge guns, so it's a win-win. Finally working together, our duo managed to take down the random creature inmates and slow down and corner the user. With the clock ticking, Dot manages to lure him into a trap.
You won't be getting very far without this.
Dot, we're running out of time.
We need a plan, a strategy.
Crash the plan. Just get down here, now!
Okay, you and Glitch better be ready, 'cause here I come!
What do you mean, here you come? Glitch, anything!
Dot uses the key card from the user to stop the self-destruct, and one of the aesthetically coolest games comes to an end. Enzo is sitting glumly, but becomes pleased when he hears Bob and Dot begin to compliment each other on their performances in the game. Then they start to argue with their compliments. That's cute, I think. Okay, time to spill my guts on the episode. It feels like if any episode was to get it was good, but this is one. Starship Alcatraz is visually impressive, and with the user's model, you can see the technology is improving, although he looks much blockier than Bob or Dot. But all the other inmates being random shapes or spider bots? I don't know. I don't dislike it. I'm not enamored either. The bulk of the argument scenes are fun and entertaining, but I disliked the gag where Dot hits the tower. Am I nitpicking? It was a hilarious gag, but bomb and explosion gags like that immediately throw the tale into absurdist comedy. The Animaniacs and SpongeBob can get away with it, because frankly, who cares about consistency, or even really the characters in a show like that? It's purely for laughs. But here, it's hard to reconcile it against something like the previous episode Medusa Bug. I guess tears aren't a big deal after all? Okay, those are small potatoes. What about the fulcrum of the tale? The actual TIFF? Does it work? Yeah? This is why I said I was ping-ponging with this one. The setup for the argument is weak and random, but isn't that kind of the point? Lots of real-world arguments are nothing too. And it's not really about the subject of the argument anyways. It's about Enzo's efforts getting them back together, and ultimately failing, because at the end of the day, they needed to apologize to each other naturally. So good. Solid lesson, easily grasped, with some silly adventure tropes we've seen thus far in the series. It's still awkward, because we've had no build-up of conflicting ideals in these two characters. But I had fun, and they're doing what they can to build up the sexual tension between our adult characters, while still making it kid-friendly. Kudos for that, I suppose. Is this going to make anyone's top 5 list? Probably not, but you're going to have a good time. It's a solid 2 out of 3 from me.